Hi YouTube, WatchFi here with another video. Today I have the legendary Seiko SKX007 automatic diver. So what can I possibly say about this watch that hasn't already been said, right? Well, I'll try to share my opinion and insights on owning this watch and whether it still makes sense to consider buying one. This watch was introduced in 1996 and was discontinued by Seiko in 2019. That was certainly a long run, probably in part due to its popularity amongst the watch community. You can still find new and pre-owned models for sale. This watch was popular because it was one of the most affordable ISO-rated 200-meter automatic dive watches available and used to be sold for around $200 or less at one point. Due to its cult-like following, countless articles and videos about this watch have been done, and if I'm not mistaken, it either started or greatly contributed to the watch modding craze we see today. I too have modified mine, as you can tell, but I'll go over the watch in its OEM form as well. Seiko released their new SRPD line in 2019, which in some ways carries on the SKX legacy, but in other ways does not. So the SRPD line, commonly referred to as the 5KX, has an almost identical case and dial design, but does not have a screw-down crown and is only water resistant to 100 meters. You can tell that Seiko wanted to steer people towards their Prospex line for those that wanted 200 meters of water resistance, but Seiko still wanted to take advantage of the SKX's fan base and modding popularity, and that's where the Seiko 5 SRPD line comes in. They have released a large variety of 5KX models, from traditional looking ones to models that have unique dial, hands, and color combos. It seems like the SRPD line has been a big seller for Seiko, and I myself have 3 of them in my collection. The SKX lineup had only a few variants that I'm aware of. This SKX007 with black dial and all black bezel insert, the SKX009 with black dial and red and blue bezel insert, and the SKX011 with orange dial and yellow colored numerals on the bezel insert. Seiko even came out with a 38mm version of this watch, which is the SKX013, and it also has several variants. In its original form, this watch comes with a Seiko 7S26 automatic movement that lacks hacking and hand-winding features. Still, it was a well-regarded and reliable entry-level movement that had 21 joules and a 41-hour power reserve. It is, however, viewed as outdated nowadays and has been replaced by Seiko's newer 4R36 movement. That is the movement you get with the new 5KX line. The 7S26 movement that originally came with my watch has been upgraded to an NH36 movement, which is essentially a 4R36. Covering the dial was a flat Hardlex crystal. Hardlex is Seiko's proprietary crystal, and depending on who you talk to, is either more scratch resistant than regular mineral crystal or about the same. The case dimensions are 42mm case size, 45.3mm lug-to-lug distance, thickness is 13.2mm with the original Hardlex crystal, and the lug width is 22mm. So a common mod done is to replace the flat Hardlex crystal with a dome sapphire crystal like you see here. Doing that makes the thickness increase to 15.4mm, which sounds too thick, but since the increase is not in the case itself, it doesn't bother me. The famous case shape slopes inwards on the sides, and that coupled with the relatively short lug-to-lug distance means this watch wears great on a variety of wrists. The sides and transition are polished, while the top of the case has a brushed finish. Polishing is also seen on the tips of the lugs and underneath the case. The screw-down case back has the famous Seiko Wave logo in the center, the same as seen on Seiko's current Prospex models. You can see that mine has picked up some battle scars from all the times I've opened the case back without being careful. The screw-down crown is located at 4 o'clock and is protected by sculpted crown guards. You can see that I replaced the unsigned OEM crown with a signed crown, and that is also a commonly seen mod that is done. Of note is that this case does not have drilled lug holes like the new 5KX line does now. You get a 120 click unidirectional bezel that is narrower at the top than its base. This, along with the bezel's pattern on its edge, makes it easy to grip and rotate. Rotation is smooth, but I wouldn't describe it as crisp like on some of my other higher end Prospex models. It's a bit too easy to turn, and oftentimes after wearing the watch for a while, I look down and I can see that the bezel has moved, probably just from me brushing up against something. The original aluminum bezel insert seen here is instantly recognizable as well, with its silver numerals every 10 minutes and its triangle with embedded lume pip. On this watch, it's been changed out to a lume ceramic bezel insert that pays homage to the original design. The dial you see here is original. It is a dark charcoal color with printed mostly round white indices. The indices are covered in Seiko's Lumibrite. You can see the printed Seiko logo along with automatic, jewel count, and diver's 200-meter wording, that last of which is famously done in orange. Since this is the J model, the words made in Japan are in fine print at the bottom of the dial. The calendar window is at 3 o'clock and is unframed and not beveled. Surrounding the dial is a black chapter ring with white minute marks. I chose to replace it with this glossy all black one that I think adds a minimalist look to the dial. So basically you get a really simple and clean looking dial with the SKX007. Of note is that Seiko chose to use applied indices on the new SRPD line rather than the printed ones the SKX had. The hands you see here are also original. The silver hour hand is sort of an angled syringe shape, while the minute hand has an arrow on it. The seconds hand is half white and half black with a lume-filled dot on the counterbalance. I'm glad Seiko decided to carry over these hands to the newer SRPD line. Here's a lume shot of the dial and lume bezel insert that I added. This watch comes with an OEM rubber strap, and frankly, in my opinion, it's just bad. It's stiff and I don't like the way it looks, but regardless, I still have it, and here's what it looks like. I knew all along I'd be changing it out to a metal bracelet, and I chose this strap code oyster style, which I think looks great with this watch. So in total, I changed the crystal, bezel insert, movement, chapter ring, crown, and swapped out the strap. So one might wonder how much of this SKX's original soul is left. I purposely left the dial and hands untouched because I think that is the core of what an SKX is. For the changes I did make, I like to look at it as I was using the SKX as a platform to tweak and change things to my liking. There are countless ways you could personalize the look of this watch if you chose to. The same can be said for the new 5KX line, since mod parts are interchangeable and plentiful. Some of these things I did simply because I could, or I got an idea from seeing someone else's mod. Even if you could no longer find an SKX for sale, you could source all the parts online and build your own version of one. I got my SKX early on in my watch collecting, and in terms of whether I would recommend someone buy one in 2021 or beyond, I would probably say no. The reason is that the prices have gone up dramatically, and there are many more alternatives with better specs and movements at far less cost. Now, if you're a hardcore Seiko enthusiast, that might not matter, and I can see someone like that still purchasing one to round out their collection and maybe modifying it like I did. But I can say that certainly is not a cost-effective approach. In terms of automatic movement watches, it's clear that Seiko has defined their model lines into the Prospex line for divers, the 5 Sports line for the affordable segment, and the Presage line for the dress watch side. I think if Seiko ever released a Prospex version of the SKX with printed indices, sapphire, ceramic, and a 4R movement, it would probably be a huge hit. It seems unlikely they'll do that though, as this case shape is already present in the 5 Sports lineup. So to wrap it up, I can say this SKX is one of my favorite watches in my collection, and one that I wear more often than others. It's a watch that I would never consider selling due to its place in dive watch history and all the personalized changes I put into it, which make it my own. I know the word is often overused, but I think this is truly an iconic watch. That's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting, and if you did, consider leaving a like, comment, or subscribing. I wanted to thank you for watching and hope to see you in another video.